Welcome to the Now. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm Ryan Haywood.
At yesterday's PlayStation 4 Pro announcement conference, Sony sold the 4K HDR Dream Machine that could make all your console games look amazing for the low price of just $399 US. But then they crushed those dreams with the cold, hard facts of reality.
Yeah, following all the grandiose speeches about PlayStation 4 Pro turning gaming's future into gaming's present, we learned a lot more about what the system is truly capable of thanks to new comments from both developers and Sony. Like the fact that PlayStation 4 Pro doesn't even do native 4K gaming on most games, or target a higher frame rate than regular PS4.
So, PlayStation 4 Neo was the blue pill, PlayStation 4 Pro is the red pill. Combined with the backlash about Pro not including an Ultra HD Blu-ray player, there's now a debate about whether or not this console is a big enough upgrade and whether or not the true native 4K gaming experience actually matters.
Those revelations, which will no doubt disappoint some gamers, came from comments made by a number of developers after yesterday's PlayStation meeting, where gamers and press got hands-on access to the system.
During those demos, we've learned from interviews that a number of the games on display at yesterday's meeting weren't actually running at a native 4K resolution. One of the games in question was Horizon Zero Dawn, whose developer confirmed that was the case. It didn't stop the game from looking awesome, though.
Well, speaking in a roundtable discussion with Guerrilla Games, Horizon art director Jean-Bart Van Beek said, "It's not native 4K, it is perceptively so close that you won't be able to see the difference with normal human eyes."
On its own, that doesn't sound like much of an issue, but this seems to be the case almost across the board. Engadget reported on an interview with Warner Brothers SVP of production Peter Wise, who said that Shadow of Mordor wasn't running at 4K, but that you can expect resolutions up to 90% of 4K, dynamically scaling based on how the games are performing.
Digital Foundry also found that despite Activision's assurances during the PlayStation meeting that Infinite Warfare runs at 4K and 60 FPS, it was actually running at neither during the hands-on time with PS4 Pro.
Yeah!
They also observed some noticeable stair-step edges on Mass Effect Andromeda, which was mostly hidden by the gameplay's kind of dark aesthetic.
I wondered why they put it in a cave. Some games were running natively at 4K, however, but those tended to be games with less challenging visuals. For instance, Bethesda has The Elder Scrolls Online running at 4K natively, but that's not exactly a technical powerhouse, plus already has the benefit of being optimized for PC.
Another game running natively at 4K was The Last of Us, but only when running at 30 frames per second. Switching it up to 60 frames per second caused the game to need to scale dynamically at a lower resolution.
It should also be noted that despite those not quite 4K resolutions, both Digital Foundry and Engadget stressed that the games still looked fantastic compared to standard 1080p, which already looks really good, offering great visual enhancements.
Really, that might be the most important thing to note for all of the people who are expecting this $399 machine to somehow do what even some higher-end gaming PCs struggle to do. And most of that comes from how the PlayStation 4 Pro is kind of cheating 4K.
According to Digital Foundry, the console is making an extremely elegant use of what's known as a checkerboarding technique to simulate 4K, where, quote, 2x2 pixel block is extrapolated out into a 4x4 equivalent, next-gen upscaling if you like. It allows developers to construct a 2160p 4K frame buffer from half the pixels, a much closer fit for the Pro's GPU prowess.
Sony yesterday confirmed the specs for the PS4 Pro. It looks like it's sporting an x86-64 AMD Jaguar CPU with 8 cores, a 4.2 teraflop AMD Radeon-based GPU. It also has 8 gigabytes of GDDR5 RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. That pretty much matches the leaks with what we've been reporting on for months, which leads many to wonder if it could natively do 4K gaming at all.
But the big question is, does this actually make a difference to consumers? With current generation consoles, we've seen that it largely doesn't matter to gamers that they're cheating 1080p resolutions. Barely any games actually get there on their own, and how many people even own a 4K TV yet? Sure, it's coming, it's future-proofing, it's gonna be a thing, but a lot of people aren't even there yet with their TVs.
Yeah, and Digital Foundry says the upscaling tricks performed by the PS4 Pro are actually really impressive, writing, "The presentation we've seen on a number of titles clearly shows a worthwhile, highly desirable increase in fidelity over 1080p, one that does put a 4K screen to good use. Switching between full HD and checkerboard 4K, the increase in detail is simply stunning."
In addition to 4K, HDR made a big difference in the game demos yesterday, but that again is going to depend on the type of screen the gamers have, which is going to make Pro a very hard sell, especially if it's not doing everything that Sony wanted it to do in the first place. And also HDR is coming to all PlayStation 4s via an update next week.
That's true. You're not special anymore. Really, it seems like most of the concessions made to the Pro had to do with price. Cerny indicated during the presentation that they're focusing on technological tricks as opposed to really brute forcing techniques in order to keep the cost of the system down.
Which is expected to do with a console.
And especially if they want to sell you a PlayStation VR pretty soon after this, so they're going to need to keep it very reasonable.
How else do you afford both?
And the 4K TV you need, which they also sell. Sony's a big TV manufacturer.
Funny about that.
They've sort of been burned by high console prices in the past, and we saw the same thing happen to Microsoft with the Xbox One's initial model.
Unfortunately for Sony, native resolution isn't the end of gamers' list of complaints about the Pro. I mean, first of all, the Pro, Neo was a way cooler name, just saying. But frame rate is another issue that's been brought up, with many developers saying they're not actually targeting 60 frames a second.
BioWare, for instance, said that Pro will only offer 30 frames per second on both versions of the game. Other developers said that multiplayer titles are going to stay locked at 30 as well, so as not to give Pro players an advantage.
Yeah, another sticking point with players has been the lack of Ultra HD Blu-ray support, which Sony quietly neglected to mention during their reveal.
Yeah, a breakdown of the Xbox One S hardware shows that the difference in cost from a regular Blu-ray player to Ultra HD only added about $15 in production costs for Microsoft. So it's not exactly like it saved Sony a ton of money to not include it.
Also, it's their own technology.
Better supported by Microsoft.
Sony has since responded to the complaints. Speaking with The Guardian, CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Andrew House, said they kept it out of the system because they're seeing a trend away from physical media for video. In fact, it's not a much utilized feature of the PS4. Most users just stream their video.
Well,
of course, they're also probably not trying to stream 4K, probably.
Ultra HD is not a format that most people, I think, that really enjoy the format will want in a digital format. I've said format a lot, but it's streaming it introduces artifacting that I would be trying to get away from if I was going to Ultra HD. But
format.
Format. Taking advantage of all this dissension was none other than Microsoft.
I'm sure they've been waiting for any opportunity.
They have just been waiting to talk a little bit of trash following the PlayStation meeting. Speaking with IGN, Xbox's senior director of product management said that the performance difference between Scorpio and Pro were going to be obvious to consumers.
Yeah, you know what else is going to be obvious? That one comes a year later. He went on to say, I believe we have the best value this holiday, and I think we're going to have the most powerful box next year.
Considering that the Xbox One S supports dynamic 4K scaling and Ultra HD for $100 less than the Pro, Microsoft may have a point there. While the Pro will be able to do more from a performance standpoint, it won't matter to many casual consumers unless they're looking at the right screen. On paper, Microsoft can easily claim they have similar features for less money.
And in a year's time, they're going to have a more powerful console that can outpace the PlayStation 4 Pro as well. They've got to be really happy about that for once. They've had a really rough generation.
They're still low on the market share, though.
They've got to find any silver lining they can, though.
That's true. Maybe they can catch up. It'll be interesting to watch.
They're really far behind. If they can catch up, I would be very surprised. I mean, I'd be happy for them because I think the competition is a good thing, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah. It's also interesting to see how both of these console makers are kind of shifting their focus right in the middle of the generation and kind of which strategy might work out most for the consumers.
I agree. In the end, the PS4 Pro is still going to be a significant upgrade over the PS4, despite not having the hardware to push native 4K. Consumers will have to determine for themselves if it's enough of an upgrade to warrant the cost, and that's where Sony's real marketing battle is going to be.
What do you guys think of the people's complaints about the PlayStation 4 Pro? Does native 4K resolution actually matter to you? Would you rather have the frame rate? Do you want the extra details? Let us know in the comments.
Do you want the formats?
The formats?
For future updates on all the new consoles, remember to like this video and subscribe to the know.
The formats? The formats? The formats? The formats?
Now I'm just hearing it as floor mats.
Formats? The floor mats?
Would you like
the formats? The formats?
Can I get you a floor mat?
I wipe my feet on them. That's yours. That's you, Ultra HD.
That's just our carpet. That's not a floor mat.
It's true.